Disclaimer, the comments made in this video are intended for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to offend anyone. Welcome to the rebellion against nonsense, where logic, rules, and woke delusions get exposed like a toddler hiding behind a curtain. Let's watch the meltdown in glorious HD.
Statistically, it is true that Asians, right, on average, make more money, better test scores, get into better colleges, all that stuff. I think the question is, why is that? And I don't know, model minority, whatever that label wants to mean.
That's actually a myth because we cannot be...
Well, no, listen. Well, let me finish my point. We need to observe what makes people successful and unsuccessful. And I think when you look at trends that are generally true in the Asian community, not of everyone, but are generally true, usually you have families that are sticking together. You have people are taught to work hard in school, not get into trouble. I think that translates to why Asians en masse are successful. And I don't think you have to be Asian or white for that matter to not have kids out of wedlock, not, commit crime, not cause trouble or whatever it is. It's just a matter of common sense. That's what makes people successful. And if that's so-called assimilation, having a nuclear family, buying a house, going to school, whatever it is, then yeah, okay, call me a pro-assimilation then.
I think there's a difference between assimilation and erasure.
Yes.
This is what happens when basic values like family and hard work are treated like offensive opinions.
Can you identify as a black person?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not black.
I'm not a woman, but I can identify as a woman according to you.
If you transition, maybe.
What defines a transition?
If that's your goal,
If you believe you're black, why aren't you black?
Well, that's just not, that's like genetics. That's like ancestry.
You're also born a man or a woman. It's the same thing. That's also genetics.
Okay, I'm over it.
Let me just say, I'm over it is just code for I can't compute.
Took LGB and then we added LGBTQIA+++, and then we included men who dress up like women and mock women. It's okay if you're proud of your sexuality, but why do I have to be proud of your sexuality?
Why are you so triggered by a flag? It's a rainbow flag.
I'm not triggered by a rainbow flag. I'm triggered by the fact that everywhere I go for a calendar month, everything has to be a rainbow flag.
Well, I'm triggered that everywhere I go for the entire year, everything has to be straight. Why is straight
Where's
everywhere?
my straight flag?
Why am I constantly
Where
getting
is my straight flag? When have you ever seen a straight flag? Where's my straight flag?
It's everywhere.
It's never been a straight flag.
Both of you are straight, and you're saying you're exhausted.
How do you know I'm straight? How dare you guess my sexuality?
Let's not play games here.
How many letters are there now in the official?
That's such a pointless question.
How many are there?
I don't even know.
How many are there?
I don't need
exactly
to know.
my point.
I don't need to know because it's not about
there
the
are so
letters.
many letters now we can't keep up with.
Modern pride feels less like a celebration and more like mandatory participation.
Life begins when you understand living women matter more than potential babies.
What is it?
What do you mean?
If it's a potential baby, what is inside of a woman?
It's a fetus.
Is it living?
No.
How can it grow if it's not living?
Actually, that's like saying if an acorn is a tree.
When does the fetus become living?
That's actually a good question, but that line...
Yeah, of course, because you don't know it, because it's living. It's living. When does this clump of cells or fetus become living?
When it can sustain its own life.
But when is the sustainability? My newborns aren't sustainable. You can't just have a newborn and they just live on their own, right?
Right.
Too bad logic wasn't on the poster.
I am so tired of talking about woke culture because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. A third of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India.
So your feelings are supposed to override facts now? That's not empathy, that's emotional dictatorship.
Do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers, but if you'd like to call them that.
What are they if they're not mothers?
They're pregnant people.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
It only takes a couple extra syllables to include people who don't identify as women but can become pregnant.
that in order to be a moral person, I need to accept the idea that a man can really become a woman. That's a prerequisite of my being a moral person.
I mean, yes.
I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity. Do you?
Well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy is a medical concern. That's not your identity.
That is my identity. I promise you, that's my identity.
If stupidity were a person, it'd be this lady. She's completely delusional and acting like she's the voice of reason.
Candace Owens just exposed her woke audience's hypocrisy.
Over here shouting and booing the officers. That's a black officer in the back right there. Are you aware
Thank you for your
that
service,
there are
man.
black officers in the world? In District 11 in Chicago, which I went to go visit and speak to those cops, they're all black. When you launch a war on cops, you are launching a war on black men as well. I'm so ashamed of the way you guys are acting and the fact that you love being oppressed. Victim mentality is not cool. We're oppressed. 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did, and it's embarrassing that you utilize their history and you come in here with more emotion than they ever had when they were living through it. It's embarrassing. You're not living through anything right now.
Love Candace Owens. She gave him a masterclass in calm destruction. That's what we call a mic drop with historical context.
These clueless students tried to cancel Charlie did not expect him to turn the tables and expose their hypocrisy.
Hold on a second. Do you support black-only dormitory? That's resegregation. You realize that?
No, I think if black people want to do that, we should allow them to because they have to pay the.
Well, then would you support white-only dormitories?
No.
Why?
Because they're pretty much the school is white open.
So you believe in black-only graduation ceremonies at Harvard?
If they want that, sure.
So
why does me?
Well, it should you that we're resegregating parts of the population.
There's a difference.
What's the difference of skin color? What's the difference between a white person and a black person?
Tell you.
Tell me what's the difference between a white person and a black person.
No.
There's no difference. They're both human beings. There's only one race, the human race. Think I'm a racist?
Yeah. Are you a racist?
Hold on a second. He thinks I'm a racist. Why would you say I'm a racist?
This is the stuff you're saying.
Name one thing I've said that's ever racist.
Whatever. I'm not gonna play that game with you.
Wow, this guy showed up looking like a backup dancer for Marx, called someone else racist, and then bailed the second things got inconvenient.
EM, errors, z's, and zers, or really any neo pronouns that aren't z hers. I am a white, trans-masculine, femme, non-binary, temporarily mostly able-bodied, neurodivergent, obsessive-compulsive, chronically ill, culturally Jewish, Unitarian Universalist, non-monogamous, demi-romantic, gray demographic.
Yo, chill, we got it, you got a lot.
Trauma, millennial, and cat parent, and mental health professional. What do you think is the number one contributing factor to global warming?
Why are you dancing? What's the dancing for?
The fashion industry?
Something else?
I'll tell you a secret. It's the U.S. military. I'm wearing the pants. He's wearing the skirt. We're both gay. He's pregnant. I have 2 girlfriends.
Yo, what is your life?
Hello, lovelies. I just want to talk about people.
They list off every identity label like it's a personality buffet.
I will use my voice in the most uplifting way possible.
It's true.
No,
it's true.
And do everything in my power to educate my community.
What is this? What stupidity is this? They're holding their hands up like they're in praise to God.
They're praising the woke ideology.
This is where the Bible warns of idolatry and taking anything before God and making it a God. And they are making this ideology their God.
They'll have no connection to any greater spiritual being. Nothing.
Oh, it's a synchronized cult chant when your only comeback is to echo the question like a broken NPC. Society's officially hit reverse.
Let me just hang on one second, everyone. Hang on one second. Just for the record, should trans women be allowed to be put into women's prisons?
I have no understanding on the issue, and I don't want to make a comment.
Fantastic. And yet you think that trans women athletes should be allowed to compete against biological women?
Yes, I do think that, yeah.
And you see no inconsistency in these positions?
Piers basically lobbed a softball, and instead of dodging it, the woke narrative tripped over its own contradictions.
Always listen to people of color. Oh, hey, I'm a person of color, and I think modern anti-racist philosophy is a pseudo-religious cult that creates a false victimhood narrative, renders us powerless so that activists like you can save us and feel good about themselves. Not you, you're racist! Shut up! Oh, so you only listen to people of color that say exactly what you want them to say? I'm doing this for your benefit. I'm protecting you. Hey, have you ever had an emotionally abusive boyfriend? Yes? He would get angry every time I said or did something he didn't like. He made me feel completely worthless, and he justified his behavior by saying he loved me and was trying to protect me, but it was all just for his validation. And the really sad thing about emotional abusers is that consciously, they really feel like they're showing love and being protective, but they're actually just seeking to control the other person or people of color.
This sketch might have been filmed in 2015, but it reads like a live broadcast from 2025.
I'm afraid to argue with woke people because I look like this and I don't know who's gonna back me up. I'm on board with 95% of it. They're like, Black Lives Matter. I'm like, yeah. They're like, future is female, stop Asian hate. I'm like, absolutely. They're like, all white men are scum. And I'm like, hey there. That last part, that hurt my feelings when you said that. And honestly, it's a little hypocritical given that and then I feel a warm hand on my shoulder and I turn around and there's just a skinhead smiling at me. I hear you, brother. No one has it harder than the white man. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm back. Listen, I don't want you to hate me for being white, but I don't want you to like me for being white. Why are these the only two options? Well, if I have to pick a side, I'm gonna go with you guys because at least your heart is in the right place. I'm just kidding. It's because you control all of film and television. That's why I'm over here. But when you find my old tweets, I'll be calling you. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you can still comfortably...
Haha. Midwest. The line, I don't want you to hate me for being white, but I don't want you to like me for it either, might be the most balanced take we've heard all decade.
I'm a male.
Maybe I think you're a woman.
No, legally I'm a male. It says on my driver's license that I'm a male.
What if I say I don't believe you?
It doesn't matter.
What gender do you think I am?
I would assume you're female.
So you're making assumptions.
Yes.
I identify as non-binary.
Respectfully, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
What pronoun should I use?
You should use they, them pronouns.
What if I don't?
If you don't, I would consider that disrespectful, and that's actually an act of violence to intentionally misgender someone.
Here we come to the issue. You just said that's an act of violence. That means it's an actionable offense. That means it's a crime. We have no idea how many pronouns there are. We can never know how many pronouns there are. And to not use a proper pronoun is an act of violence against them. Did you ask my pronouns before you sat down?
No, I didn't ask your pronouns.
You just talked about me being privileged. You understand? No one goes around asking pronouns.
Ah yes, the classic game of Guess My Gender, where no matter what answer you give, you lose.
You just assume my gender? You said white man.
Okay, I see your point there.
How do you know I'm not a woman?
I see your point. I see your point.
You need to check your white privilege, your white female privilege.
Woke logic doing cartwheels again.
What is the most effective way that people can lose weight? In your experience as a doctor.
Right. One of the things...
Eat less food, do more exercise.
Are you
Pierce said the human body works a certain way, and the room acted like he committed war crimes with a salad.
Has one purpose, only one purpose, control. It is designed to divide people by race, by gender, by ethnicity, by religion, by vaccine status, and any other way that they can divide people into groups, because why? Then you can justify having a government to control all those groups. No more woke, we need...
Pierre out here treating woke like a faulty app. Delete, reinstall freedom.
And because it's not true, and it makes people hate each other. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It is a plan that would potentially make 2 million people, who are mostly people of color, have less rights than white citizens. So that is racist.
Okay, so it's racist you come in the country illegally as you did. You have a moral right to let your relatives come too?
I did not come into the country illegally. Let's get a fact straight. I came to the U.S. on a plane on a tourist visa. So I did not come into this country.
Oh, I thought that you overstayed. I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood your bio.
I did overstay my visa, but I did not come into the country illegally.
Oh, you were here illegally. Okay, so I guess that's what I just said. So you sneak into the country, you bring your child. That child gets citizenship, and now you have a right to citizenship because you're the one who caused this problem, that parent, in the first place, by bringing your child here illegally. But I have to, as a citizen, give you citizenship? How does that work exactly? No, but why should I be for that?
Going back to the point I was making at the beginning of the segment, which
How
is
about
that
you
the
answer my
reason we are
question?
in this situation is because the president ended DACA, and then he tasked Congress with coming up with a solution
you want to have that
fix the
debate,
DACA
but let's talk
problem.
about
But
look.
now
Actually, you're not answering my question.
That Dreamer Lives should pay
you
for
don't
a
have an
$25 billion
answer. No.
wall.
So you're saying if I sneak into someone else's country and bring my child, and the people of that country are kind enough to give that child citizenship, I somehow deserve it too? Because why? Why? It's a simple question. Why don't you give me a simple answer?
I'm going to tell you why. Reason why is because if these people become United States citizens, as they would under this plan, they should have the rights of as every other American citizen has. Why should this person, if we're making them citizens, why should they have
you
less
came
rights? So if we're saying that
illegally, that's
if we're
why,
saying that
and we don't want to
citizenship is on the
reward that
table,
behavior.
Then they should have the same rights as every other United States citizen.
Let me ask you really quick. So the ACLU described this as the supposed generosity, giving citizenship to people who are here illegally. Do you think it's generous of the United States to give citizenship to people who came here illegally? Do you think it's generous?
I think that we are trying to talk about two different things.
No, we're trying to talk about. I'm asking you a simple question. Do you think
not-
it's generous to give people who are here illegally citizenship?
I don't think that it's generous to
Oh, you
separate
don't.
families and create second-class
I get it.
citizens. No, I don't.
I don't know why we
think
would
it's
bring in
generous
people
that
who
families
are
should
not
be
grateful
separated.
for the privilege of being an American citizen. You're deaf.
What part of law sounds optional to these people?
You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to okay?
Omiji Lowell, an all-time great explanation.
Ma'am, don't assume my gender. Yeah, don't do that. Don't assume your gender. What are your pronouns then? They and Z and princess. Princess?
What? Princess? No way.
You can be racist against certain groups. And yes, you might be a sellout. You might be whatever.
Oh my god.
Thank you. I'm glad that I know that if I don't agree with you, I'm a sellout and I'm not good enough for my Latinos and I'm not good enough for my father, for my grandfather that escaped Cuba. Thank you.
Labeling someone as racist should be based on clear actions or beliefs, not disagreement alone.
Feminist, and I don't
Okay,
hate
so
men.
you are a self-described feminist. What is a woman?
Why do you want to know?
I'm infinitely
Wait,
curious.
What's a man?
You're looking at one.
Why do you think that that's important to you, what a man and a woman is?
So
Do you
you
treat men
can't-
and women differently?
Well, it depends in what context, though. Politically, no. Under the law, no. Should they be treated differently in societal customs and norms? Yes.
Why?
Like, we should open doors for women. We should honor and protect women.
I want to
and-
honor and protect you, man.
Okay,
Aw,
great,
do you
thank
know
you.
honored and
Women are worthy
protected?
of protection. Can you tell me what a woman is since you're a feminist?
You're saying these things because you're trying to get a gotcha.
You're
Okay,
a
so-
feminist. Shouldn't you be able to tell me what a woman is?
I'm a feminist.
Isn't that probably
because-
important to feminism? What is the woman that you're trying to
I
advance
know,
and
right?
protect? Isn't that
So
integral
funny.
to? Is that the whole feminist project? The war
Asking
against.
what a woman is the only way that you can get a
Well,
gotcha over everybody
I-
else. Why is it so important to you to define things in certain categories? How does that help your day-to-day life? Like
What other categories in the human species are there besides male and female?
Well, I just think that categorization is usually unhelpful when we're trying to improve society, right?
I have XY chromosomes.
Okay.
Can I give birth?
No, you can't.
Bingo. That's why categorization matters.
Oh no, sweetie, feminism isn't about making women equal to men. It's about the wild idea that everyone should get a fair shot regardless of what's in their biology.
What does it mean to be woke? Let's start by defining what woke is not. Woke is not anyone who is left-wing. Are all woke people left? Yes. Are all left people woke? No. Left politics and wokeism are synonymous, but they're not the same. This is a mistake that both left and right-wing people make. Young lefties do it because they've grown up in an environment where woke and left are used interchangeably. More ignorant right-wingers, very much the same thing, but used more as a buzzword to shut down critics of their arguments. Just look at how the right-wing media and senior Tories like Suella Braverman will call anyone who criticises them woke. The Cambridge Dictionary defines woke as anyone who is aware, especially of social problems such as racism and inequality. Oxford and Merriam-Webster define it very much the same way. I disagree with these definitions. Wokeness is more than social awareness. In fact, it's actually a lack of social awareness, particularly when it comes to interpersonal communication. Wokeness is often made obvious by a person's refusal to have respectful conversation conversation and appreciate the diversity of opinions, which normally stems from woke people having massive egos and wanting to be seen as morally superior rather than actually wanting progressive policies that help people. Categorized by a narrow authoritarian and tribal viewpoint rather than looking at things universally. It's divisive, lazy, and plays into identity politics, thus it's actually the antithesis of left-wing politics, which is why traditionally left-wing academics like Slavoj Žižek and Suzanne Neiman criticize the state of the modern left for being woke. It's ideologically contradictory. Having spent 4 years at university around many woke circles, I can tell you this about woke people. They're naive, intolerant, and more concerned with one-upping you than they are bringing about progressive change. Despite how popular they might seem on social media and in university bubbles, they are not in the real world outside. Now, if you are also a Tory, aka you are not part of a tiny niche micro community in the left, drop a follow.
Ah yes, the word so profoundly meaningless it might as well have been invented during a group nap.
I'm transgender.
Like, why do I have to pretend this is I just hate...
I'm born and raised here in New Mexico. I have a graduate degree in information technology, marketing, business, and finance. I own my own home. I pay taxes. I have a 6-figure job. I'm a respected professional in Albuquerque. I'm a mother.
What? How?
The world's practically overflowing with certified clowns. I feel her sighs.
In the West, they got a movement called Wokeness, where you are super sensitive about other people's issues and you become hypersensitive when other people somehow or others say things or mention things or refer to you without the respect which you or your super subgroup feel you are entitled to. It leads to very extreme attitudes and social norms, particularly in some academic institutions, universities. You talk about safe spaces, you talk about appropriate pronouns, you talk about I'm about to say something which may be offensive to you. If you don't want to hear it, perhaps you'd like to leave now. And life becomes very burdensome. And I don't think we want to go in that direction. It does not make us a more resilient, cohesive society with a strong sense of solidarity. We must be more.
Bravo, give this man the presidency. He is wise.
All the white, cisgendered, heterosexual people in the room, don't speak at all during this meeting. You've had your time for long enough. You know, history has favored you. Just be quiet. And I went, that doesn't sound right. And I looked around the room that I was in, and people were nodding and agreeing, some even smiling for what she just said. And that night I went home to my white family, my conservative white grandparents who'd taken care of me my entire life, made sure I went to school, made sure I had a job, made sure I got scholarships. And I thought, it doesn't quite make sense to hold these two beliefs in my brain that white people are inherently racist while I have this family that's taking care of me.
The modern twist on free speech is, you're totally free to speak as long as your opinion comes pre-approved by the cult.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Brian Laverne, he, him. Hi, I am NDP from Los Angeles, they, them pronouns.
Thank you, Chair. Nick, he, him, his from Twin Cities. James Jackson, Sacramento, DSA, he, him.
Hi, my name is Onlin Wang, I use he, him. This is Chris, he, him from Cleveland.
This is Daniel Ray from Piedmont, he, him pronouns.
My name is Trey, I use they.
Based on that small collection of intellectuals, question for you fine viewers. Who wouldn't love to go to the conference and just be a fly on the wall? Watch the infightings, the pronouns, how they change. And then for this poor lady here, shim, her, whatever, she has to deal with it. Be like herding cats.
I am a walking contradiction here, but never really present.
Can someone please explain to me why Kristen Bell is getting canceled for this dinner? This is the problem with woke culture when it's not done right. People are calling them out because there's no diversity in the photo. As far as I know, it's a friends gathering. As a woman of color, as a Latina, sometimes I have a big hangout with all my Latina girlfriends or all my Latina friends or my family. Nobody is calling people out for just hanging out with their group of people. That's okay. If you start calling out people for doing nothing wrong, it takes away from people that are actually trying to do good work in the space of DEI.
she's spot on. At this rate, even my cereal's too woke to be considered acceptable.
I know when you say, "Hello, my name is Kim, my pronouns are she, her," what you will say is that you are just telling me how you want to be addressed so that I can speak to you respectfully. But we're both quite clever, you and I. And we know that that's really not what's happening, is it? You see, when I address you, when I speak to you, I use something in grammar called second person pronouns. I'm the speaker, the first person, and you are the second person. And when I'm speaking to a second person, what I do is I use the pronouns you, your, yours, and so on. So I'll say, "Hi, how are you? How was your day? Is that your car over there?" Right? It would be really strange if I somehow managed to slip in a he or a she. "Hello, how is she?" We don't do that. It sounds completely wrong. When I'm talking to you, the second person, about a third person who's not here, or if I'm just thinking about that third person, then I'll use the third person pronouns. Those are the ones like he, she, hers, his, etc. So his name is John. She's not a very nice person. That's his car. That's her house, and so on. And the difference is quite clear. So when you, quite uninvited, declare your pronouns to me, in spite of what you might say, you are not telling me how to address you. You are not telling me how you like to be spoken to. What you're telling me is how I must think about you and how I must speak to everyone else in the world when I refer to you. You might think it's okay to control me in that way. You may think that you have a good justification for doing so. But at the very least, let's be honest about what you're doing, because that's how I like to be spoken to.
The grand art of announcing I'm different like it's a TED Talk, then waiting for a medal for existing slightly off center. That's a wrap on today's trip through the upside down circus, where feelings try to beat facts and logic needs a helmet. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay grounded, stay sharp, and as always, stay unwoke.